purpose of Freethought Forum is to be vigilant to the encroachment of religion into government and to educate the general public as to what a freethinker is.
My thoughts give me power.
No scholar can map them.
No hunter can trap them. No person can deny die Gedanken sind frei.
Hello, I'm Don Lawrence. Welcome to Freethought Forum. We're happy to have you with us today. We're going to try to challenge you to do some thinking for yourself, to break out of your previous patterns of thought, and to consider the world perhaps in a different light than you have before. Later on in the program, I'm going to give you some sources for free thought material and give you some telephones and some email addresses and so on. But right now, I'd like for you to think about, not actually to think about it, but to actually do it. I'd like for you to call some of your friends and tell them this program is on. Tell them that we're not trying to bring them to Jesus. We're trying to get them to reconsider that maybe Jesus really has nothing to do with saving a soul. That maybe, as a matter of fact, they don't even have a soul to save. That the world is a whole lot different from what you're told from your childhood onward. So we'd like to cover some ground here today about the problems that Judaism and Christianity and Islam have caused. The title of our program is going to be Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, How They've Scarred and Wounded Humanity. And someone's here today to help me talk about all that pain and massacres and suffering and how we can make the world a better place. Howard Thompson came down from Austin, and I'm sure he's suffered a little in his life, so he's gonna help us get over it here. So, Howard, I'm gonna read us a laundry list here. Thanks for being with us.
You're glad to be here, Don. Just pleased as punch. Go ahead with that laundry list. We're going to get things cleaned up here.
What I basically want to do is just give our viewers an idea of the points we're going to cover, and we'll go back and go over them in excruciating detail.
Excruciating is the word.
Okay. The thesis here, the idea is that much of what's said to be wrong in the world today, many of the problems, are in fact not cured by Christianity or Judaism or Islam, but as a matter of fact, they are at least made worse by these religions, if not directly caused by these religions. And so here's a laundry list that we're going to talk about. We would say that belief in the supernatural and belief in magic and many of the concepts that are involved in these religions and other religions have perverted the human use of reason, that it prevents us from, sidetracks us, and distorts the use of our reason. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we would say that these religions, most specifically Christianity, have suppressed the use of the best investigative tools we have, namely suppressed the use of scientific investigation. The third thing that all of these religions have done is demonized women. They have said that women are lesser creatures, that women shouldn't have some of the same rights as males, that women have caused certain problems, that sin is in the world as a result of women's activities, and so on. So they've demonized women. These religions have persecuted independent individual investigators. The martyrs to each of these religions by the authorities and groups of these believers in these religions fill books. And so people who have tried to think for themselves have been persecuted and martyred by these religions. One of the things that have caused much of the strife that we see in the world today is that these religions have legitimized the use of force to spread their beliefs. And you only have to think of Northern Ireland or the Palestinian-Israeli conflict or other things of that sort. These religions have tolerated racism and ethnocentric attitudes. That is, we are a special people, God likes us the most, our ethnic group is the one that God favors, and so you have to somehow provide special accommodation for us. And other people of different races, for instance, don't measure up, and we have the right to oppress them. They've discredited new knowledge, and I'll show you, I'll mention some books that deal with the fact that when new discoveries are made of scientific fashion or things about human behavior, about human psychology, that religion has rushed to discredit this new knowledge. These religions confuse the education of youth. Young people learning how to learn. Let's repeat that. Young people are learning how to learn. In the process of learning how to learn, they're simultaneously told that they should give this great amount of credence and pay great respect to scientific and supernatural things, but at the same time they're told that the scientific method and independent investigation with gathering and evaluation of facts is important. And I believe that this basically makes young people crazy. It confuses their education. These religions have destroyed self-esteem. Another point. That is, they tell you something's wrong with you. You shouldn't have great esteem for yourself. You're a sinner. You need God. The only way that you can achieve paradise is by following this formula. A number of other things that tend to destroy your self-esteem. My next to the last point, I'm getting to the end of the laundry list here, Howard, is that I believe that these religions create psychological havoc. That is, related to the former point about destroying self-esteem, they tell you there's something wrong with you, and they tell you that you can't fix it, and then they tell you that you have to go through a bunch of rituals or activities that don't necessarily make sense, and that kind of thing creates all kinds of problems in your mind, in your concept of yourself, and your understanding of how you should deal with world problems. The final thing, and by no means last, let me use that hackneyed phrase, and last but not least, each of these religions have perverted human sexuality. They've caused people to have an enmity with themselves. They've caused sex to be seen in such strange ways that it's a wonder that anyone is able to behave in a sexually positive and a sexually healthy manner if they've been raised in any of these three religions. And I could just go on and on and on, Howard.
Well, we know you'd never let that happen, though, Don.
Yeah.
Well, all I've got to say, Don, is, ouch, religion hurts. Oh, well.
So we're going to start back at the top, maybe, how religion has perverted the use of reason.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, Don, religion really does that. Basically, what we're talking about is that once you believe in magic, then you believe that there's some kind of supernatural being out there, in particular with these religions, that can, by an act of will, violate what we think of as the physical forces of nature. Mm-hmm. As soon as you believe that, then you have lost your grip upon the cause and effect nature of the material universe.
Exactly.
If you're trying to predict when it's going to rain next week, what you're saying is you don't need to worry about weather models, you don't need to worry about past histories, you don't need to worry about the hot air and the cold air and where the moisture is and where the jet stream's moving and may move in the future. All you need to worry about is God going to make it rain in Des Moines, Iowa a week come Tuesday? because God can do it by magic.
Yeah, this magic comes in, and the thing is that you abandon the most powerful tool that you have, namely your mind, to someone's idea of how all this magical stuff works. So pervert your use of reason. What's next on the list, Howard?
Well, I don't know what's next on the list, but before we get away from that one, basically what happens when you believe in magical beings that can violate the laws of physics is that you not only lose your idea of what cause and effect in reality is, lose your ability to be able to predict, lose your ability to be able to use your reason to make choices in your life that protect you and benefit you and your loved ones. You're prevented from getting there.
Absolutely.
You're prevented from getting there. Since we run on such a tight schedule now, let's jump to the big one everybody really wants to get to, and that's sex.
All right.
As you're going through that list, I'm thinking, in some ways we can boil a lot of these things down to two basic factors. These are monotheistic religions, meaning you got one God, but of course you got to have two, because you have to have the evil Satan in there. You have this.
I guess he is kind of a negative God, isn't he?
He's a God, whether or not you say God created him or not. You have this duality set up between ultimate evil and ultimate good, and they're at war with each other. And we powerless humans are just pawns in this war. And the ultimate good figure, the Christian God, Yahweh, Allah, he basically says there's original sin, and you're born bad. And the only way you can get clean from that is come on my side, but you've got all these forces from the evil side over here pulling on you, trying to make you do those bad things. And from an atheistic viewpoint, I mean, this is insanity.
Yeah.
Because what these religions are saying is that your naturally evolved behaviors and instincts, many of them, are evil.
Well, I've always
that
suspected
you're bad,
that about you, Howard.
Well, you're right about me, but that's one of those isolated cases that proves it. What you're basically saying is that your humanity is evil.
Exactly, and that's what's so destructive. What it just sows the seed, and I go back to the word craziness, because I truly believe that that telling people from the time that they're a child, that they were born in sin and they need to be saved. And then all of these share blood sacrifice.
Yes.
And the idea that you have to, of all things, take a little lamb and cut its throat and somehow that blood that flows, that blood which scares the living bejesus. I shouldn't say that. Scares the hell into the hell out of.
Hell out of.
That is, that's such a barbaric and horrible thing, that this blood somehow makes you better, that it somehow saves you from the sin. I don't see how people can help but be psychologically warped by that. I was in Saudi Arabia for 5 years, and they bring in each year for their annual pilgrimage hundreds of thousands of sheep that are slaughtered. I mean, they have mountains of sheep carcasses that they then have to dispose of because their religion says you have to do this. Just astounding.
Well, Judaism used to do it with the Second Temple, and the early people who we now call Christians participated in those sacrifices too, because they were going to the temple. But the harm on your humanity is that you feel a natural anger towards someone that's in an appropriate situation. It's threatening or scary. And these religions say, wait, you're not supposed to feel angry unless, of course, God said that you were supposed to feel angry and kill and destroy all these people. So you have to feel ashamed and guilty about this natural thing. You feel lust, which is one of our strongest possible instincts, the instinct to reproduce, and you're immediately taught this is bad. You should feel ashamed. You should be guilty. Work on yourself to repress this, and people do. And they grow up with the twisted, perverted kind of sexuality if they get it real bad, or if they get it like most people probably get it. It's just, sex is something that's hard to enjoy, hard to ever get to feel comfortable with, not to feel guilty about, not to feel ashamed about it. There's all sorts of taboos that religion puts on it, that sex is okay if you get things just in this one right configuration, so you work your whole life to get it in that configuration so you can avoid the bad feelings.
Are you
but they're so
calling...
strong. Oh, I didn't call marriage by name, but if you want to go there, go ahead.
I thought maybe you were trying to
fidelity.
describe the missionary position as the configuration. I'd never heard it called a...
Well, the Zodic Jews, the righteous Jews of the Hasidic orders, apparently even take it to the point of you have sex only for procreation, and it is wrong for the man or the woman to have a pleasurable experience out of it.
Oh, that's the Catholic position.
Yeah.
Sex is not for pleasure. That to this day, that's the Catholic position. Sex is not for pleasure. And when you said this feeling of lust,
Yes.
that's a loaded word.
Yes.
It automatically, poor Jimmy Carter, he was, excuse the expression, crucified
Yes.
for admitting to feelings of lust, when in fact what you're experiencing is natural sexual impulse, but that has this loaded negative thing of lust, and nobody wants to. Well, I like to feel lust.
We even call it sexual addiction and try to make a disease out of it.
Yeah.
Whereas we should all be like Bill Clinton, right? Wait, I'm sorry. Did I go too far for this audience? Was that? Who apparently doesn't really feel the guilt and the shame that much unless Hillary catches him or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one of the interrelated to that is. And we're not following the laundry list exactly here, but, it's all dirty laundry, and we'll get to it piece by piece
Ooh,
here.
Good, Don. Good, Don.
Is the role that puts women into, the way that women are demonized, both as the source of our, quote, our spiritual failing, and then in addition to that, women are I know very well in Islam and in Christianity, they're practically devils, because when a man sees a woman and has this lust thing toward her, then sin has been created in him, and the woman's the one who did it, and so she's at fault, and this is the theme from very early in each of these things, is that women are the source of sin in us guys.
That's a very typical patriarchal religious sort of thing, is that men don't like the influence that women can have on them with their sexuality, which of course is a product of natural selection to make sure that we men play our part and hang around and help raise the kids. So we make them cover themselves from head to foot except for the eyes. We do everything we can to repress images of women which could be sexually arousing. We expect women not to act alluring or to dress alluring, which is of course their instinct. In order to help we poor frail men be able to control our lusts. And perhaps most of us need all the help we can get, but but it is an unfair thing.
But Howard, I don't want to control. Well, not much anyway.
Well, I want to control them just as much as I'm capable of handling.
Well, let's see. I had
lost your train of thought, did you?
It had to do with lust, no doubt. But,
still in that groove, huh, Don?
Yeah. Well, I guess it basically had to do with the fact that Christianity, when you were talking about now I'm going to get real philosophical here. We've been so lustful that now we have to be philosophical.
I'm sorry. Do we have a trailer running across the bottom of the screen? Warning! Philosophy coming up.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about this good and evil duality,
yes.
And that we have to have things in this black and white fashion. And I think most people don't realize that came, from that Christians, Jews, the Muslims don't realize that came from much earlier Zoroastrianism.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And that even though it's in the Bible, it's not a place that the fact that it's in the Bible doesn't mean that that's where it originally came from.
Yeah, well, the duality thing is a real two-edged sword, because society needs rules. It needs to say some things are good behaviors and some things are bad behaviors. But we don't need a 2,000 or 3,000-year-old rule book for a modern society.
Yeah. Well, I think we've probably covered the ground pretty well here. I won't say we've covered it pretty well.
We've scratched the scab. Go ahead.
We haven't covered it nearly as well as I want to cover it, but we keep running out of time, Howard. If you run out of beer, you can go buy some more. But anyway, so thanks a lot for being with me, Howard. And we'll talk some more on this subject more later, I'm sure.
Undoubtedly.
I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about free thought in general, why it is that you should consider being a free thinker, what it means to be a free thinker, and give you some sources for free thought material. Now, the first thing is that you don't often get presented, I think, an argument about why you should be a free thinker. So I want to make this, in a way, a very serious appeal, and I want to try to get you to think about yourself in a very intense and a very scrutinizing way. Few of us realize how much of a product of our culture we are, and the degree to which we follow patterns that our culture has presented to us. Often we don't realize how much we've abandoned our most valuable faculty, namely our brain and our ability to reason, when we deal with some very important subjects in life. So what free thought is about is precisely reclaiming for yourself the right to think freely, to think free of dogma, to be free of requirements to avoid certain kinds of thought and to only follow certain channels and certain paths in your thinking. At various times in our programs, we've mentioned the fact that religion causes you to abandon your reason, that it causes you to think about yourself in a way that lowers your self-esteem, that it causes you to see other human beings as needing some kind of fixing, that there are all kinds of problems that automatically come along with religion. And so we want for you to reclaim your right to think for yourself and to think of ways to step outside of the box that you're in. There's the saying that a fish doesn't see the water that it swims in the same way that we don't think about the air that we breathe. And so sometimes it takes a conscious effort to become aware of your own breathing. In the same way that a fish is not aware of its own activity in the water. And so we want you to become aware of the patterns and the channels that you follow in your thinking. I want to present to you some possible sources for you to read and look into a different way of seeing things. Now, in this day and time, people often refer to, for instance, UFOs. And so it may not be that there are any UFOs. I think that there are no UFOs. And a very famous person by the name of Carl Sagan, many of you may know him, wrote a book called The Demon Haunted World. It's available at Barnes & Noble. Just go in and ask for one of Carl Sagan's books named The Demon-Haunted World, and it goes through chapter by chapter dealing with things like the magic approach, the supernatural approach, all of those kinds of things, UFOs, and how to think for yourself. So that's an important first source. Get that book and read it. Now, another source is a book called The Story of B. And this book also challenges you to rethink your cultural patterns, and it asks you to look back on your history, on your being as a person, and reconsider how you came to have the ideas that you have about your culture. A third book, I'm not going to get through my entire stack here, but this one is really important, is The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. It's by Barbara Walker, and it debunks many bogus saints of the churches. It deals with traditional beliefs and things like that. And an important thing is that it gives the roots of many beliefs. Now, in addition to reading books like this, it's important for you to be able to get local sources. So I'm going to read to you, and they're going to appear on your screen, a number of sources where you can get further information. These free thought sources include the Freethinkers Association of Central Texas. You can reach them at P.O. Box 160881, San Antonio, Texas 78280. They meet every fourth Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. It's at Bailey's Bridge Studio in North Star Square. That's the corner of McCullough and Rector behind North Star Mall. The phone number is 210-491-6829. Another source in the local area, from Bernie area, is the Texas Hill Country Freethinkers. They can be reached. Their phone number is 830-535-6469. They have an email address, zo.zappa@mci2000.com. You can also email them at txfreethinker@geocities.com and see their webpage at www.geocities.com/Athens/forum/8317. Finally, for a source to buy many of the books that I've mentioned to you and to get a catalog that will give you a lot of sources, other books, there's a bookstore, not a bookstore, but a book source in New York. It's Prometheus Books. Prometheus Books is available at 1-800-421-0351. That number again for Prometheus Books is 1-800-421-0351. They have a website at www.prometheusbooks.com, and you can review many books on free thinking, atheism, and other subjects having to do with thinking for yourself at that website. Take the time to be a free thinker, consider these sources, and be with us again for our next Freethought Forum. Thank you very much.
To duke or dictator, no person can